All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to tackle something huge, a discipline that's absolutely critical if you're involved in any kind of large, complex project. We're talking about interface management. Seriously, this is the key to turning total chaos into actual control. So let's kick things off with a question that, well, if you're a project manager, you probably know this feeling all too well. It can feel like you're trying to untangle a giant knot of wires in the dark, right? You've got all these stakeholders, contractors, different systems, and you just know that one wrong move, one single misstep could blow up your budget and your timeline. So where does all that risk come from? Well, that brings us to what we call the interface problem. See, the danger isn't usually from one big, obvious thing. Nope, it's hiding in plain sight, in the thousands, and I mean thousands, of little connection points, the interfaces. It's where one team's work meets another's, where different systems have to talk to each other. And you know what? That's the breeding ground for miscommunication, the exact spot where projects just completely go off the rails. And when I say interfaces, I mean literally every single handoff. Think about it. It's the moment a design document gets passed from the architects to the engineers. It's the physical spot where one contractor's pipe has to connect to another's. It's even in the fine print of the contracts between different companies. Every single one of those is an interface. And yeah, every single one of them is a potential landmine. Okay, so how on earth do you manage all this complexity? How do you tame that beast? Well, there's actually a formal discipline for it, and it's called interface management. This isn't something just made up. It was developed by the Construction Industry Institute. You'll hear us call them the CII. And really, it's just a systematic way to find, track, and control all those critical connection points, right from the very beginning of a project to the very end. All right, so now you know what it is. But the real question is, how do you actually do it? This isn't just some high-level theory, you know? The CII put together a really practical toolkit with specific tools you can use to get a handle on all this. Let's pop the hood and see what's inside. So there are 4 core tools in this kit. First up, you've got the Master Interface Plan, or MIP. Think of this as your high-level game plan, your strategy. Then, for the day-to-day tracking, you can start simple with an ISM spreadsheet or a register. Nothing fancy, just gets the job done. When you need to get granular on one specific interface, you'll use something called an Interface Control Document, or ICD. And finally, for the big leagues, when your system is really mature, you can bring in dedicated interface management software to automate the whole shebang. Now, the cool thing is, you don't have to jump into the deep end and use all of this at once. It's not all or nothing. These tools actually line up with what's called a maturity model, which basically means you can scale your approach. You can start at stage 1, just using some basic spreadsheets. And then, as your projects and processes get more complex, you can gradually work your way up to stage 4, where you have a fully baked formal system humming along. Okay, this all sounds great, but it begs a really important question, right? How much of this stuff do you actually need? Because let's be real, a simple construction job just doesn't require the same level of heavy-duty oversight as, say, a brand new, first-of-its-kind energy plant. You've got to have a way to assess your project's complexity. So how much do you need? Well, the answer really boils down to assessing 2 key things before you even think about picking a tool. First, how complex are your project's interfaces? And second, what's the business impact? How bad will it be if things go sideways? And the first tool that helps you do exactly that is the PIRI matrix. That stands for Project, Interface, Risk, Impact. Just think of it as your high-level decision-making guide. It's super simple, really. It just helps you map out your project on 2 axes. How complex are the interfaces, and how high is the business impact? And looking at this matrix in action, man, this really makes it click. Look down in the bottom left corner. A franchise department store. Pretty straightforward, low complexity, low business impact. No biggie. But now, check out the valve replacement. The work itself? Easy, low complexity. But any delay means you stop exporting product. Suddenly, the business impact is sky high. And then you've got the granddaddy of them all over in the top right, this huge fertilizer plant in Kenya. We're talking new technology, a joint venture, tons of contractors, over 400 physical connection points. I mean, that is the textbook definition of high complexity and high impact. A project like that is practically screaming for a formal interface management system. So the PIRI matrix gives you that 30,000-foot view, the big picture. But what about getting down into the weeds? For that, you've got another tool in the box, the ISAT, or the Interface Complexity Assessment Tool. Here's the easiest way to think about it. PIRI tells you if your whole project needs a formal system.
ISAT is like your magnifying glass. It helps you zoom in on the specific connections between, say, contractor A and contractor B to figure out which of those interfaces are the riskiest and need your immediate attention.
Okay, so let's recap. You've used the assessment tools, you've figured out if you need interface management and to what degree. So now what? How do you actually put this all into practice? This is where we pivot from talking about the tools, the what, to the actual implementation framework, the how. And it all comes down to having a solid, repeatable process. And that process is what we call an interface management system, or IMS. Don't let the name intimidate you. An IMS is just the structured framework that pulls everything together, your people, your processes, and all those tools we just talked about, so you can systematically manage your interfaces from day one all the way to project completion. This framework follows a really logical 6-step process. It all starts with step 1, identification. You have to find all the interfaces, or as many as you can, as early as possible, because you can't manage what you don't know exists, right? Then comes step 2, documentation. You write it all down, make it official. Step 3 is all about transferring that information and issuing the right packages to the right people. Step 4 is communication. And we're talking formal agreements here so everyone's on the same page. Step 5 is where you keep your eye on the ball, monitoring and control. And finally, step 6 is closing, where everyone formally signs off that the job is done, the connection is made, and everything is approved. Okay, so we've seen the problem, that tangled web of risk, and we've seen the solution. But let's get down to the bottom line. What's the payoff? Why should you bother going through all this effort to set up a formal system? Let's talk about the real, tangible benefits. And this is the crucial part, really. A good IMS system isn't just more paperwork or overhead. Think of it more like an insurance policy against total project disaster. It delivers clear, tangible results. You're actively knocking down cost and schedule risks. You're making it crystal clear who is accountable for what. You stop things from falling through the cracks, you cut down on errors and that awful, costly rework, and maybe most importantly, you create a system for solving problems together, instead of just playing the blame game when things go wrong. And really, it all comes back to this one core idea from the CII. The whole point isn't to throw the heaviest, most bureaucratic process at every single project. No way. The goal is to be smart about it, to match the level of effort to the level of complexity you're actually dealing with. It's like a doctor prescribing medicine, right? You want to apply the right dose for the specific illness. So we'll leave you with this final thought, something to connect all of this directly to what you're working on right now. Just take a second and think about your projects. What's that one connection point, that one handoff that's completely unmanaged and keeps you up at night? Because finding and naming that one critical interface, well, that's your first step to taming the complexity.